Well, a solar power talk. We will see what is going down here. Glad this gentleman that is working with solar power told me about this and invited me here. The Botanic Gardens, Chicago. Hope to learn something. Maybe hang out with some cool people, meet some new people. Meet this guy. So welcome to Kenny Sommer presents Radio Chaos Chicago. Whack. C4. Episode number, well, I have no idea. Isn't that cool? Look at that. Looks like a Lynx golf course. Alright, enjoy the video. This is the wrong building. Darn it. No one could join me tonight. It's too bad, because I have a lot of friends that wanted to, but unfortunately had other things to do. So I will give them a briefing. I could be way far away from where this is. Oh no. It's not solar power, but it is some very beautiful plants. Plants are good. Photosynthesis, good. We need to get rid of the carbon dioxide and get oxygen. 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 Oh, ain't that cool? We need a little oxygen. Lots more oxygen. Oh no, this ain't good. Okay. I really wanted to get to this. We're in a maze. It's kind of like that movie. What is it? Of course, Alice in Wonderland. The Mad Hatter. I am truly in the wrong area. But we'll make it. Well, hopefully. Uh-oh, it's turning into Blair Witch. What is that? Oh. Don't get me. Don't eat me. Uh-oh. Eat me. Don't eat me. Oh. What's that movie called? Name that movie night. Thought it was Solar Power Night. Name that movie. What is that called? I can't think of the name. But I'm back at the entrance. Oh, come on. The plant eats Seymour. We get a little tour of the Botanic Gardens. My hip's gonna start hurting me. Bummer. I gotta find out about this public land auction to oil companies. It seemed like it was like actually non-existent, but it actually happened. And it's happening. And why couldn't I buy land? I couldn't even find the site. Call the Department of Energy. No one knew about it. Asked for like 3 people. Come on. How can you do that? Off at the 18th. Oh, nice shot. The weeping willow. The willow weeps. We think it's over here. My ball landed right 200 yards that way. We're at a pin. Got 100 yards to go. Should be able to either get a birdie or at least a par. Can't believe that shot. Forget it. I just broke all my clubs. Even my 7-iron's gone. Trusty 7-iron. Monorails, where are they when you need them? So hopefully this is a building. Or more walking. And my hip is hurting me. There's signs of life. Human life. I don't think people like people smoking anymore. But definitely, I think the green community definitely looks down upon it more. Business society. Well, I'm thinking this guy will be alright. the 13th of October, live at the Botanical Gardens. Now the question is, can I gain access to the smelly flowers? The big smelly flowers that never bloom. Forced bloom. It's not even just solar, it's the environmental town hall meeting with Senator Morrison and Representative Nurkritz and Drury. Very good. Environmental town hall. And I just thought it was solar. We definitely have a little Disney World feel here. Disney World's all good with me. The Polynesian Village, yeah. The whole village thing, the village people. Walt, I don't know, never met Walt Disney. Maybe his clone is coming. Oh, that's Kanye West. Not looking like the environmental meeting. I don't know, it looks kind of cool. Again, lost. Doing well here. Huh, Sparky? Huh, fashion show? Huh. Listen a little more clearly to the guy at the front there, because I sure can. Hopefully this has got it. If there was a fashion show over there, that would be kind of cool, though. I have to diss the environmental meeting. Not just a solar meeting, but an environmental meeting. Not even sure what the heck this means. Okay, it's closed. Maybe that's where the smelly flower is. Oh yeah, up here? Yeah.
This way.
Okay, thanks. This is a fashion show. More fashion. Fashion.
Plants that are still operating to run more cleanly and to increase their efficiency. The Clean Power Plan is significant. At this point, it's kind of the only thing on the table that is out there that stands to reduce carbon emissions on a national level. The end game of the Clean Power Plan is that greenhouse gas emissions from power plants will be 30% below 2005 levels by the year 2030, and it's the biggest single action to fight climate change that our country has ever taken. The EPA reports also that implementation of this plan will decrease sulfur dioxide from power plants 90% from 2005 levels, and nitrogen oxides from power plants 72% of 2005 levels by the year 2030, which in layman's terms means a lot less smog and ground level ozone and pollutants that really irritate and impact the health of the people that breathe them in. In fact, with those reductions will come a reduction of 3,600 premature deaths a year, 1,700 heart attacks a year, 90,000 asthma attacks, which is a huge issue that our organization deals with, per year, and 300,000 missed work and school days per year. That's huge. America's Clean Power Plan falls under the umbrella of the Clean Air Act, which is a law that requires the EPA to regulate air pollution that harms human health. The Supreme Court established that greenhouse gas emissions are harmful to public health, and therefore the EPA is required to set limits on them. Energy production doesn't have to use dirty energy. Unfortunately, opponents don't want you to know that. They don't want to rein in their emissions. So America Clean Power Plan, they say it's illegal, and they say it costs too much, which is something we'll also talk about too, because that's where the plan that we have sort of in the wings here in Illinois, which is the Clean Jobs Bill, kind of comes into play. In all their cost calculations, what they do is they undervalue the health impacts of decreasing air pollution and the impacts on the future of the planet for our children and our, hopefully, children's children. Nationally, the Clean Power Plan will benefit the United States fiscally, and they estimate that climate benefits will be around $20 billion, health benefits between $14 and $34 billion, and net benefits of $26 to $45 billion. It's quite a bit of money. North Shore, just kidding. So I say it because I live 5 minutes from here in Highland Park. In fact, Senator Morrison and Rep. Drury are my senator and representative, so I love the Botanical Garden. I'm super excited to be here. But back to the Clean Power Plan, everybody. Anyway, numerous states and governors and companies have already confirmed that yes, we can meet these goals if we put our minds to it. In the state of Illinois, our governor hasn't really commented on the Clean Power Plan, which leaves a lot of us scratching our heads. But our coalition continues to work hard to talk about it and get a result so that we know where.
Interesting Supreme Court.
That was a good intro into the federal portion of the issue. And next, we're going to hear from Nick Magrisso at the Natural Resources Defense Council. He's especially going to focus on what is kind of the quiet giant to me of the clean energy world, which is energy efficiency. So, go ahead.
Energy efficiency right now. Awesome. Do we know that we have a state law that requires our utilities to invest in energy efficiency? All right, that's good. So let me tell you why I believe that energy efficiency is somewhat of a snooze fest of a topic. And quite frankly, it's because it's complicated and it's not nearly as sexy as renewable energy. Right? If you close your eyes and you think about clean energy, most people think of wind turbines and solar on your roof, and that's much more easier, for at least for me, to visualize. Who are the people that are installing those measures? Where are they? They're on top of our roofs, they're in our cornfields, they're across the rural areas of the state. That makes sense. But energy efficiency is quite literally all around us right now. As I heard, this building is LEED Platinum. That assures me that the lights overhead, the insulation of the room, the technology that we're using is all meeting code that requires rigorous efficiency of these appliances. That means they're using less energy to do the same amount of work. That's a pretty significant concept in and of itself. So we're not talking about shivering in the dark. We're talking about doing effectively what we are doing now, but by using less energy and therefore reducing the amount of power we have to generate. So just to kind of frame that up, that's the topic that we're talking about. And there was a law that was passed in 2007 with the same kind of leadership that we see here that requires our utilities every single year to reduce the amount of electricity that they sell. First thing, that's an issue if you kind of think about it. Utilities are paid by the amount of volume that they sell in their electricity. So that's the revenue. So if we're telling them, no, don't sell as much, sell less, each year sell even less, and then the next year sell less, there's an inherent conflict in their business model. So much of the work that NRDC has done and will continue to do is try and find the right business model that align the incentives so utilities can invest in the clean energy that we all want, cleans our air, provides better and safer health for all of us, creates a ton of jobs, and also works for the utilities. That's a
chief sponsor of the Clean Jobs Bill in the House, Representative Drury and Senator Morrison, also sponsors of the bill in their respective chambers. And also thank you to the other members of the panel. I'm really actually kind of proud to be up here. I'm relatively new to the environmental field, but not new to this topic. So I've been in the Environmental Law and Policy Center for about 2 months. Before that, I worked for the Illinois Senate. In that position, I worked with Senator Morrison a lot, and she's really one of my favorite senators. So, Bill, that's not to accept a little bit. So I'm new to this side of the table, but not new to this topic. I staffed the Energy Committee in the Senate for 3 years, and on my first day staffing energy, one thing showed up on my desk, a giant stack of papers from my predecessor, talking about RPS. And this was 2013, and today it's 2016, and as Nick was saying, we're still talking about RPS. And we're still talking about the Renewable Portfolio Standard and how it needs to be fixed. So let's take a step back. In 2007, Illinois passed the Renewable Portfolio Standard, setting a renewable goal for the state of 25% renewable energy by the year 2025. It had step increases every year and up to 25%, and also included sub-targets for wind power, for solar power, for distributed generation, etc. Early on, there was some development in wind. In 2007, there were 700 megawatts of wind power in Illinois. We're up to 3,800 megawatts of wind power in Illinois. That's a positive. At one point, we were 4th in the nation. However, since then, we've been leapfrogged by, I think, Oklahoma, and now we're 5th in the nation in wind power production. That was enough wind power to power over 1 million homes. On the solar side, there wasn't as much of a robust growth in solar power. We only have about 65 megawatts of solar installed, and we're ranked 27th in the country in solar power installed. In 2014, there was a bill that was passed that set aside $30 million for solar development, and so that kind of helped us to to take a step in the right direction on solar, but we think that there's still a lot of room to grow in the solar field. So we had some renewable energy growth thanks to the RPS, but as we've already discussed, there's an issue. We have a renewable energy resources fund in the state of Illinois. However, it does not fund renewable energy. It's been swept. We have a fund that sits there and hasn't been spent on renewable energy. And this is due to a quirk in the law or a legal interpretation that has not allowed the Illinois Power Agency to use that money for the purchase of renewable energy. The Clean Jobs Coalition, a group of environmental groups, renewable energy businesses, faith groups, as well as environmental justice members, got together in an effort to come up with an idea. That was the Clean Jobs Bill. Nick already addressed the energy efficiency piece of that, and that's great. There's also a renewables piece, and the Clean Jobs Coalition has certain goals for renewable energy. First of all, we need to fix the renewable portfolio standard. This has been something that we've been working on for years. In my 3 years on staff, every year it came up, and every year it just kind of withered away, and we were unable to actually finish it. Now we think we have a really good opportunity to do this. What we would, by fixing the RPS, it would create a reliable funding mechanism for renewable energy businesses to come to the state of Illinois and have long-term plans. And like any other business, you need to have a consistent funding source to set up a long-term plan to come here with a big renewable energy project. So that's the first. We need to create a reliable funding structure. Secondly, we should actually meet those goals for renewable energy. As I said before, we have a goal of 25% by the year 2025, currently in law. Even though we had some growth in wind power in the early stages of the RPS, that was only enough to get us to, I believe we're at about 5.5% renewable energy for the state of Illinois. Our goal for this year is, I think, 11.5%. So we're only about halfway there. And that was even with some good growth early on. So we need to actually meet our goals. And finally, our goal should be that we should create jobs here in the state of Illinois, actually create renewable energy that's built here in Illinois. And part of our goals are diversifying that, using the money for wind power, but also for solar power, brownfield solar, distributed generation on rooftops, low-income solar, community solar gardens, etc. And we think that by meeting these goals, we'll also meet the Clean Power Plan goals of reducing our carbon emissions, and that's a net positive as well. However, as Nick addressed earlier, there's other energy interests in our state. Exelon announced that they plan to close down 2 of their nuclear power plants, huge economic drivers for the communities where they're located, and it would mean massive loss of jobs.
Including are helping us make that just transition to where we need to be. So I'll end with saying, addressing carbon is a critical component to any comprehensive statewide energy bill that we're putting together. Any plan for the state needs to involve talking about carbon. We need to be thinking long-term for our planet, for our children, and not just for short-term profits or short-term decisions, but we need to be thinking about this in the long term. So this is something I want to thank you all for being here. I know it is a weekday night, but this is something to be thinking about because I do think it motivates a lot of folks in the crowd. So when maybe there's folks coming and knocking at your door this season, or if you're talking to other leaders in your community, making sure that they know that this is a priority of yours. Okay, so thank you so much.
And we're just going to hit on 2 more pretty hot topics that are being considered by our state legislature and our federal government. And the first of those is pollinators. So Rebecca Riley is a wildlife attorney at Natural Resources Defense Council, and she's going to talk about what Illinois is doing to save our bees and butterflies.
All the flowers and plants you see out here, as well as our food supply. About 1 out of every 3 bites of food relies on bees for pollination, and it's foods like apples, coffee, grapes, pumpkins, things we all know and love and really count on being there. Those foods require bees. We've had a really good day today, and I wanted to tell you a little bit of good news. And that is today, the Fish and Wildlife Service, for the first time, said that a very wide-ranging bee species in the United States should be protected as endangered. Now, the bad news is, obviously, we would love for that not to be the case and for that bee species to be healthy, but this is a recognition that the bee problem and that our losses are something real and that they're meaningful and that the federal government needs to step up and do something about it. And so we're really for the monarch butterfly. So we're really taking a step in the right direction for the monarchs. Now for bees, we also ran a bill last year and we had a little bit more of an uphill climb. So for bees, obviously the problem is this class of pesticide called neonicotinoids. And we ran a bill that would ban neonics on state lands and for residential use. And so as you can imagine, that's a very
any money here either. But that's the way it works. And I want to thank the legislators who are here, of course, but I really want to thank you guys for being here. Who wants to sit on a Wednesday evening and hear a bunch of environmental policy wonks go on at length and dive into the weeds of these issues?
Mike Novak, radio host.
And we need people like you. We need more people like you. So if you can, I know you talk to your friends. I know these issues concern you. I know you contribute. I know you pound the pavement. So thank you. Thank you very much for being here. The 2008 Electronic Products Recycling and Reuse Act requires the manufacturers of electronic products to recycle a certain percentage of electronics based on an individual recycling goal that equates to a certain number of pounds for each manufacturer. Illinois' program, like 28 other states, is premised on the fact that electronics contain a host of hazardous toxins, such as lead and mercury, that should be properly disposed. On the other hand, electronics contain a host of valuable materials, such as gold and copper, that shouldn't be tossed in a landfill. In 2012, a landfill ban went into effect, assuming sufficient infrastructure for TVs, computers, monitors, and printers would exist to recycle or reuse those products. Unfortunately, stakeholders have discovered the formula no longer works. Why? Well, that's a good question, and it has a lot of people perplexed. It's partly because secondary commodities prices have dropped, and there is a lack of program transparency to ensure that the manufacturer's goals are actually reached through Illinois collection programs. There's something called the 2 for 1 pound credit that incentivizes rural collections. That might be another factor. Bottom line means the manufacturers reached their required weight obligations well before the year is over, leaving recyclers and collectors without the money to fund recycling programs. That's why you've seen one county after another suspend their programs or cut them back severely as they scramble to figure out how to pay for them. In 2015, for instance, Illinois state law increased manufacturers' weight obligations from 36.2 million to 49.6 million pounds. Those are numbers, but look, we're up around 50 million pounds that the manufacturers are required to pay for. And that was supposed to meet consumer demand. But it turned out that even that number is not high enough. Meanwhile, Oregon's e-recycling program collects 6 pounds per capita, while Illinois only collects about 4 pounds per capita based on recent recycling goals. Now, by the way, this kind of law is called an EPR, which stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. The Illinois Act is called a performance-based EPR because of the yearly weight goals that I just mentioned. However, there's another way to go, and that's called a convenience standard. Now, 5 states, Connecticut, Maine, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, have laws that require manufacturers to provide enough broadly distributed collection sites to meet demand. That is to say, to make it convenient for all state residents to properly dispose of their electronics. To meet this requirement, the state generally hires a contractor to manage a statewide collection system paid for by the manufacturers. So in practice, the convenience mandate also represents a centralized approach to this problem. The Wharton School, in collaboration with Electronic Recyclers International, reported in April of this year that, quote, based on the amounts of e-waste collected per capita, states using the convenience method are outperforming those employing the target setting approach, end quote. Remember that Illinois has the target setting approach. And just as importantly, we also support a third-party private sector entity to provide administrative oversight to the program, such as being done very successfully in Oregon. The Illinois EPA has the budget to fund such a third-party organization through the manufacturer registration fees that average about $350,000 annually. Now, I know I waded into the weeds a bit on that, and I apologize for it. We think it's an important issue. Thank you for your time.
So now I think this is going to work. So I think I'm just going to pass this down. So now,
how could kids in their school help with environmental problems?
That is a super good question. It's really, really good. I don't know if you've looked around the room, but you and your sister are pretty much the only ones under the age of mumble in this entire room. So that is completely 100% accurate. And it's something that our organization talks about a lot. I know that living in this area, my kids go to preschool here, and I talk a lot about how to protect the planet in a very tangible way, like Mike said, was recycling and things like that. Look, there's your sister, you're just like my kids. And planting trees and making art out of used stuff and everything like that. But I think I'm sorry, Jen, I'm going on a side path about this. I used to work at the Central Park Zoo when I lived in New York City. I did theater, and I used to do conservation puppet shows for children. So I'll tell you one of the best things that I learned from some of the scripts that we did that you can do as a kid is when you go to something like this, tell a grown-up, tell your teacher, tell the people that work at your school that you care about this stuff and you want to hear more about it. Have your grown-up, who I know is very proactive, reach out to groups like mine, like Clean Power Lake County, like all the other groups that are represented at the table here, to talk about how we can talk about this stuff in a school, because it's really great. Don't get me wrong, it's really great to plant trees and recycle and do stuff, but as the problems get bigger, the conversations get bigger, and I know you're a little girl with another little girl on your back, that's cool, but this is your planet after all of us are gone, so it's really important for you to be part of the process.
And butterflies both love lots of flowering plants, so making sure you have a nice, diverse garden full of plants is a thing that you can do that'll really make a difference.
One of the best places is Monarch Watch. Go to monarchwatch.org. They have a milkweed store and buy milkweed that's specific to your section of the country. That's another thing, because there's more than 100 species of milkweed in the United States. I wanted to just very quickly to answer the question and say, don't let your parents off the hook, okay? When they don't bring their reusable bag to the store, ask them why they didn't do it. When they throw away a plastic bottle, ask them why they didn't recycle it. When they go to Costco and they buy 100 bottles of plastic water or water